Recording in progress. So we're talking about skills and tips to take more listings in 2025. Everybody can agree listings are the name of the game, right? Right. All right. Right. We got to take more listings. That's how we stay in business. That's how we control our time. All those wonderful things that you hear about with taking more listings. So we're going to talk about skills and tips to take more listings in 2025. Now, look at, here's the thing. Some of the stuff is stuff you've heard 1,000 times before. Okay, so maybe it's just a reminder. Some of the stuff might be a different way of hearing it. Some of it might be new to you. So I just got a list of thoughts here on skills and tips that we got to master in 2025 if we want to take more listings. All right, because that's our focus. Buyers are great. Now, the nice thing about buyers is they have to sign a buyer representation agreement. So that helps out a little bit with the buyer side. But we obviously want to take more listings just to control more of our time. So let's jump right into it, right? Let's just get into this. Skills and tips that we need to have to take more listings in 2025. So I wrote down number one here. Pick any question-based listing script and master it. Pick any question-based listing script and master it. So here's the thing. Here's why I say it this way. Some of you are very Mike Ferry oriented. Okay. Now, look, if it was up to me, I would just hand everybody the Mike Ferry script and say, learn this and go get it. That's me. That doesn't make it right or wrong. But some of you don't follow Mike. Some of you like, Tom. Some of you like Brian Buffini. Some of you find stuff on Google or find these other coaches on YouTube and things like that. So here's what I'm telling you. Because I've spent a lot of time at the end of last year really learning all the different coaching systems and trainers and things like that. And here's what I figured out. Any script will work as long as it's question-based and you have it mastered. So pick a script, any script you like, as long as it's question-based, and simply master that script. Okay? If you want the Mike Ferry script, great. If you want to go find something else, go find something else. But I found a script online because somebody was asking me for another script, and it was very tell-based. Here's what we're going to do, and we're going to do this, and then I think this, and I think this, and I'm reading the script going, the customer's not engaged at all in this script that I found on listing presentation script I found on Google. Let me ask you a question. When you're sitting down at your house, and let's say a solar person comes, an insurance person comes, and if they talk for like 10 minutes straight without asking you a question, are you fully engaged in their presentation? No, no way. No way whatsoever, right? You need the client to be engaged. If the client is not engaged to what you're saying, are they going to list with you? No. Or if they do list with you, you're going to have to do something like promise a price that's too high or cut your commission, which I don't want to do. So you got to keep the client engaged. That's why we have to get question-based script. So pick one and then master it. The two letters that will ruin your chances of getting a listing in 2025 are U and M. So if we're going to go through our script tonight and we're going to talk about the price and and you're just saying and the client is just cringing internally, like, stop saying that. Stop saying that. All right. And so they're not going to pick you because you don't have that confidence, that authority. So when you have a script mastered and it's a one-size-fits-all script, you don't say because you just roll right into it. When you don't have it and you're just winging it, the ums come out. Got to get rid of the ums if you want to take more listings in 2025. Okay, so master that. So here's what I wrote down underneath that point. What does it mean by master it? A minimum. Take a minimum of 15 minutes every working day to work on that script. Now, I would prefer more. I would prefer 30. For some of you that are newer, I would prefer an hour, but at least 15 minutes. Now, what do I mean by work on it? You could chant it out. Who here learns better by just chanting stuff out? Okay, so some of you are chanters. I'm a chanter, right? Right? I feel like I was part of an old tribe, like centuries ago. It's like just a chanting around, right? But if I grab a script and I just walk around chanting it out for 15 minutes a day, right? If I just walk around and say, I'm so excited about getting your home on the market, getting it sold. Can I come in? Great. I wrote down 3 real important questions. Number 1, do you absolutely have to show? And I just chant this out for 15 minutes a day. Over the course of a couple of weeks, I'm probably going to have that script mastered. So that can be one. Who here learns better by handwriting out? Handwriting. Okay, some of you handwrite. So take 15 minutes a day and handwrite the script. Now, you might not get the whole script in 15 minutes. So day 1, just write for 15 minutes. And then day 2, just pick up where you left off. And day 3, pick up where you left off and start over if you have to. But maybe it's handwriting. Maybe it's a combination of both. Maybe some of you like to do both. So one day you chant, one day you handwrite, one day you chant, one day you handwrite, but do that for 15 minutes. Or role play it, which is the best way. Role play your listing presentation. But master that question-based script, and I don't care which one you use. All right, second thing I wrote down kind of goes into that. A minimum of once a week, role play your listing presentation. Minimum of once a week, role play it with somebody else. Okay. I think it's great when you role play with yourself. That's cool, but it's not the same. Find somebody to role play your listing presentation script, whichever one you're using. And don't worry. And now here's the thing I'm going to tell you all from your role play partners. If you are I'm dedicated, hardcore Mike Ferry. If somebody wants to role play their script, just let them role play their damn script. Okay. You don't have to use that script, but just let them role play it. Right? Or vice versa. If you're like, I hate Mike Ferry, he spits on stage, that son of a gun. If your role play partner wants to role play the Mike Ferry script, let him role play the damn script. Okay? Like, it's okay. It's okay. Right? I mean, let's be honest. Isn't it cool sometimes when you get different perspectives from different agents? Right? So don't be upset. Don't be like, well, no, you don't do the Mike Ferry script, or you do the Mike. It doesn't matter, right? Just find somebody to role play the script with. It can be in the office. It can be via Zoom. And here's the thing, it doesn't have to be a real estate agent. We have one of our agents that sends me listing presentation role plays. Their spouse does it with them, right? Because you just need somebody to pretend to be the seller and ask questions, basic stuff. Okay, but do that because role play is the best, but only under one condition. You've heard me say this 1,000 times before. It's one of my all-time favorite Mike Ferry statements. Poor practice, no matter how much you do, will not make you any better. Poor practice, no matter how much you do, will not make you any better. So when you're role playing your listing presentation, get excited about it as much as you can. I get it. There's no adrenaline. It's not a real, but get as excited as possible. Okay. Don't be like, all right, here we go. We're going to role play. Now we're going to do it from start to finish. And you could be right here, right? You don't have to go to an actual door, but just, stand up, knock on the wall, and be like, hey, I'm so excited to have you get your home on the market and get it sold. You mind if I come in? Yeah. And you sit down in the chair right there. You don't have to walk around, right? And then you're up, you're there. Okay. As aggressive as you possibly can, as excited as you possibly can. All right. So you got to poor practice, how much you do will not make you any better. And then the last part of that is record it. Video and audio. Record the video and the audio, because this is really how you master a script. You practice it every day. We talked about that 15 minutes, but when you role play it at the highest intensity as possible, and then you can play it back, you can see what went right, what went wrong. And then if you want extra credit, send it to somebody to give you some feedback. I'm more than happy. All my Friday afternoons are dedicated to either watching role play presentations or listening to prospecting calls. So I'm more than happy to listen to watch those live presentations and give you some feedback. Okay. But at least once a week, get that in there. All right. Next thing I wrote down here, skills and tips you got to master in 2025 to take more listings. You've heard this a thousand times. So let me try to, before you just hear me out. You have to know the inventory of what's sold, what's not selling, what's expired, what's pending, what's active. You have to know the inventory. So what am I referring to? What skill or tip or activity could help you with those things?
Preview.
Preview property, sure. Or look at, as I've liked to say, I know that most people don't like previewing property. Neil's been trying to get people to preview. I know most people like doing it. So I don't want you to go preview property. Instead, I just want you to go see homes that are for sale. Okay. That's all I want you to do. Okay. No more previews. Just go see homes that are for sale. Okay. But you got to know that right now, because here's why. Did anyone notice kind of after Halloween, that November, December, the days on market started to increase rather dramatically in a lot of our areas? Okay. No one start to notice that. I tell you, man, in some of the areas, it's really crazy. Okay. Days on market started to increase. Homes, prices are still going up, but homes are starting to sell below list price. Okay. I'm sure you saw the stats in December where homes are starting to sell a little bit more below list price, which means pricing property is more important now than it has been in the last 8, 9, 10 months. Because you don't want a listing just sitting there. So pricing property is really, really important. Well, how do you price property correctly? Well, you got to know what other houses are doing in the area. You got to know what. I went and previewed this house and then it expired. Well, I saw that house. I saw that house that expired. And that house expired. And now I'm looking at your house, and that house actually is in better condition than your house. And they expired at 750. You want 755, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. I've been in that house that expired. No one put an offer on that house, and it's better than yours. It's in better condition. You need to be able to have that conversation. If you don't do that, then that seller wants 755. And what are you going to do? Like, okay, sure, I need the listing. Well, it's going to sit 750 expired. Okay. But you got to be able to know that, or you got to be able to say, hey, I went and saw that house. When it first came on the market, I saw it, and they got into escrow in 7 days. That house is about equal to yours. And it got into escrow in 7 days, and they were listed at 735. You're trying to list at 755. You want to be in escrow in 7 days? Yeah. Okay. Well, they were at 735. But I saw that house and it's about equal to yours. I know you think yours is better, but I saw that house. You got to know what's selling, what's pending, what's active, and how does their listing compare to the competition? Because here's one thing you have to understand. Well, let me ask you this. 2025, are buyers more knowledgeable today than they've ever been? I mean, it's crazy how much stuff they know. They know everything. So a buyer can go online, go to any particular site, right? Every site has every listing, and they can see, well, that house looks more upgraded than this house. That house looks worse than this house. That house has a better floor plan. That house has a nicer view. This house looks like it needs some work. They read the descriptions. They know it all. It's got the school ratings. It's got the walkability score, proximity to whatever. They got everything. Which means this is important. This is really important. What I'm about to say, you have to understand. What I'm about to say next, you want to take more listings in 2025. You can't trick buyers. You can't trick buyers in 2025. Can't do that. They have access to too much information. So if you think, hey, we'll price it high, leave room for negotiating. You know what the buyers are thinking? That house is priced too high. I'm not going to see it. I've got too much information. I know. Oh, we'll price it the same as that house. Okay. I know that house is better and more upgrades, but we'll price it the same. You know what buyers are saying? What you're pricing at 750. That house is 750. We went and saw the open house. Let's look at the pictures. That house is wholly remodeled. This house is a fixer. You can't trick buyers. So don't do it. Go out there, preview property, know what's actually comparing to the market, and then price the house accordingly. But have that conversation with the sellers of saying, hey, look, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, buyers have a lot of information. We can't trick them. We need to get buyers to see your property. And if your house is overpriced, if your house does not meet the standards of the community, buyers are simply just not going to show up. But you can only do that if you know what else is going on. Okay. One of my favorite lines, and I learned this from Melinda. Shout out to Melinda. Okay. I learned this from her. Is in the, if you do the Mike Ferry listing presentation, I'm sure other presentations like this, and you go through the comps, you're going through the comps and you ask the seller, have you seen this property? Most of the time, what's the seller's response when you say, have you seen this property? Usually it's no. I see some of you shaking your head. Usually it's no. No, I haven't seen it. Well, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I've actually been inside this house. And when I was inside this house, I could tell you right now, this house is slightly more upgraded than yours. How can a seller argue with you at that point? Have you seen this property? No, I've been inside. You have control over pricing. But if you say, have you seen this property? And they go, no, and you go, neither have I. We're even. Neither have I. And they go, well, I want this price. You're like, what the hell do I know? I don't know. You think your property's better? Why not? You got to know that inventory. It's pricing's really important right now. You got to know that stuff. Okay. You got to know that stuff, which means one other thing on pricing. What I would recommend doing to make sure that you're in a priceable range is do brackets. Do brackets on pricing, meaning that look at homes that are comparable to theirs, pull up the expires, the closed, the pendings. Look up homes that are comparable to theirs and look up the homes that expired. Okay. And figure out what's the lowest priced comp that expired. So let's say I have a comp and there's a home that expired. There's one that expired at 850 and another one that expired at 800. Forget the 850 one. Let's go to 800. So now I know I can't be above 800 because 800 expires. So I can't be above the 800. Then go to the comps and go to the lowest priced closed because it probably needed some work. Go to the lowest price closed. And the lowest price closed was 720. 720, but it needed a lot of work. Okay, so here's the thing, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. I don't want your home to sit for 45 days. Do you? No, I don't. Okay, then we have to price your home in a bracket that's going to get it to close. I know we can't go above 800 because 800 expired, and I know 720 will sell, even though it needed a lot of work, which means that we have to probably be somewhere between 720 and 775. We got to be in that range. That's the sellable range for homes in your area based on the comps. Now all we have to decide is how upgraded is your house to decide, do we go with 720 to the 775? Everybody with me on this? Okay. You got to get your house to sell. Listings need to sell. So you got to know all the stats. You got to know what's selling, what's not selling, and then create those brackets that you can have those conversations with your sellers. All right, good stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right, I wrote down here next, skills and tips to take more listings in 2025. Don't be afraid to walk away from unmotivated, overpriced sellers. Don't be afraid to walk away from unmotivated, overpriced sellers. All right. Who here has ever done that? Who here has ever actually gone on a listing appointment? The seller was interested in listing with you, but you didn't like, this isn't going to sell, and walked away. for you. Good for you. Okay. Some of you might not be raising your hands because you just haven't gone on enough listing appointments. That's okay. But that's a cool feeling, right? When you walk away and you're like, you know what? God, I probably could take this listing, but they're unmotivated, they're overpriced. This listing's just going to be a nightmare. It's just going to sit. So
Or
you
a,
know what? Go
or
ahead,
a,
Tess.
or a seller that's really hard to work with.
Sure. Sure. Sellers are really hard to work with. Yeah. Don't be afraid to walk away. Don't be afraid to walk away. Because here's the thing, kind of like what we just talked about, days on market's up. It's taking a little bit longer to sell. Buyers are smarter than they've ever been, so you can't trick buyers. So if you have an unmotivated, overpriced seller, that property's not going to sell. Not right now. Okay. Who knows? Who knows what the market will happen and in the months ahead or years ahead, whatever it may be, when all things might get crazy. Who knows? But right now, that's not going to sell. So all that's going to do is occupy. I want you to understand this. It's occupying headspace. Because you might be thinking, I hear this all the time. Well, yeah, but I don't spend a lot of time on that listing. But it's occupying headspace. Whether you spend a lot of time on it or not, it's occupying headspace. It's on your mind. It's on your board. It's occupying headspace. You can't let that stuff occupy your headspace. And any time that you do spend on it is just wasted time. Oh, I only have to update them, a couple of times a week, or, do an open house here and there, something like that. I'm like, well, how much time is that? Hour a week, 30 minutes a week? Over the course of 2, 3, 4 weeks that you keep the listing, you've spent 5, 6, 7 hours on it. If you're doing open houses on top of that, 8, 9, 10 hours on this listing that's not going to sell. Do you know what you can accomplish in 10 hours? You could do 10 hours of prospecting to find another listing. Making 8 contacts an hour, 80 more contacts to try to find another buyer or seller that might want to buy or sell a house that can get you paid. You could work on your skills. You can work on another thing, another social media or something else you wanted, or you can just take that time to yourself. There's so much you can do with that time, because really that time's just wasted, and it continues to just occupy headspace for you even when you're not working on it at that exact moment. It's okay to walk away. It's okay to do that. Okay. So you want to take more listings. Sometimes you have to say no to listings to get more. Okay. Every listing you take, you should be excited to take it. Every listing you take, you should be excited to take it. If you're not excited to take the listing, then don't take it. Oh, I got a listing. It's overpriced. Why are you telling me? Now you're wasting my time. I'm not trying to be mean, but now you've wasted your time and you've wasted my time telling me about this unmotivated listing. Robert, what do I do about this seller? What's wrong with the seller? They're really difficult to work with. Fire them. Well, but if you don't like my answer, don't ask the question. Okay. What would you do if you were in a relationship that was really shitty and you weren't married and didn't have kids? I'd probably dump them. Okay. But you won't do it at work. I don't understand. I mean, like, you're married with kids, I get it. Sometimes you got to work stuff out. Like, you're single, you're dating someone, and they're just a pain in the ass to deal with on dates. You would dump them, but then you go, but you let yourself get abused at work. Like, it makes no sense, right? So set your standards. Okay. You should be excited about every listing you take. You should be excited about every buyer you work with. I know we're talking about listings, but you should be excited about every client. Every client you work with, you should be like, let's go. Let's go. Otherwise, you get mentally drained. And when you're mentally drained, then it becomes a ripple effect on everything else. So don't be afraid to walk away from some of these people. Okay. Because they're not going to sell anyways. You're not going to get paid. And we are in this for money. Okay. It took a listing. It's expired 4 times. Well, now it's going to expire 5 times. Good for you. Well, Robert, that's mean. Well, Sometimes I'm your biggest cheerleader, but sometimes, you know. All right, good stuff. All right, I wrote this down next. Skills and tips. Generate more listings in 2025. I talked about this the other day on Thursday, but I'm going to mention it again. Whatever source you're going to go after to get listings, go all in. Whatever source you're going to use to generate listings, go all in. Because if I'm kind of doing some expires, and I frequently contact my database, and I do a little for sale by owners, and I kind of dabble a little bit with this. No, but because in 2025, being okay at a lot of things gets you no money. Being great at one or two things gets you paid. Okay, that's a really important thing you have to understand in our business right now. There are times in our business where you want to, hey, you know what? I could take any deal because I'm kind of good at this, I'm kind of good at that. Okay, that's great. And you can get deals from a lot of different places. 2025, you have to be more singular minded. Okay, don't be good at a few things, be great at a couple things if you want to take more listings in 2025. Okay, and then if something comes your way that you know how to do, great. But well, you know what? I do a little bit of past clients. I do a little bit of just sold. I do a little bit of probates, a little bit of expireds. Kind of get into for sale by owners. I do some online leads. And it's like, okay, you're not great at any of those things. What are the one, two, maybe it's three things that you want to be freaking great at? I want to be great at expireds. Okay, great. Then let's create a plan where you are freaking great at expireds. And then you're generating listing off of expireds. Because if you're just kind of doing expireds, you're going to kind of get zero. But if you're focused and you say, I want to be great at expireds, then you might generate some listings. I want to be great at for sale by owners. Not just, I'll call it, every so often. No. They're on my list to work every day. They're on my list to follow up every day. I've got a plan. I've got a script. I've got action. I've got everything on this. Okay, now you can get some listings from for sale by owners. Database. Robert, I don't get any business from my database. It's because you're not focused enough on it. There's not a plan of action. So let's create a plan of action where you're really focused on it. You're really engaged. You're committed to it. Where you are the database king or queen. You want to be the condo king or queen? Great, let's go get it. You want to be the two-story home looking to downsize king or queen? Great, let's go get it. Be great at a few things. You'll generate more listings than just being okay at a couple things because the rest will follow. I mean, look at if you were only calling your past client centers of influence, is there a chance where a probate deal is going to come up? Yeah, probably. And you might be like, well, I've done probate, so I can take it. It's just not one of those things I focus on. Okay, great. But you could take the deal, right? If you've done it before. You might stumble across a for sale by owner just from prospecting, just listed, just sold, whatever it may be. But be committed to a couple things. Be great at a couple things. Maybe for you, it's social media. I want to start generating some business from social media. Great. Then go freaking all in. Figure it out. I don't know how to do that. Don't ask me. Okay. I'm not going to coach you on social media. I don't know a damn thing. Okay. I know nothing. That's the only thing I know about social media is I know nothing because I see some things on social media where I'm like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever seen. And it's got like 10 million views. And then I see some things I was like, damn, that's a good point. And there's like 6 views. So I don't know. But I know there are people that get business off of social media, but they have a plan. They're committed. It's part of their daily thing. Don't dabble. Find some things and be freaking great at it. Go all in on whatever sources you're working in 2025, which then means to the point after that, don't be afraid to shift if things aren't working. Now, give it time, give it 90 days, whatever you're going to work on, give it 90 days, maybe 120 days, depending on the type of system you're working on. Right. But let's use expires, for example. If you've said, I'm committed, I'm really, and you follow the plan, that, Neil's worked on, I've worked on to help you become great at expireds. You follow that plan. And after that, you say, I really committed to that plan. And I'm just still not getting expired deals after 90 days or something like that. Okay, then either A, let's work on the plan. Let's figure out how to get better. Or B, maybe that's not for you and let's shift into another direction. Don't take the whole year to realize, that didn't work. Remember that impatient thing I talked about earlier? Okay. But you got to be all in. Got to be all in. I wrote down here next, skills and tips to work on 2025. This kind of goes what I mentioned earlier about knowing that, but you got to know the market stats and trends and how to be able to showcase that to a client. I saw Lydia put in the chat box, InfoSparks. Who here uses InfoSparks? Heart hurts right now, hurts tremendously with the amount of people that raise their hand. Okay, hurts because of how much we teach it, how much we talk about it, and the people that use it, how powerful it is when you're taking listings. So here's what I wrote down. It's not good enough to know the market stats. Can you present the market stats? Can you present the market stats in a way that makes the seller understand if it's going to help them sell their property right now or not? Because everybody can research market stats. Can you present them? And do you actually know the market stats? How about this? I've done this for a lot of you, right? I'll go on Telegram sometimes. I'll say, hey, if you have a listing appointment coming up, let me know the city. I'll send you some stats. And then some of you do. And then it's like, hey, did you know that in this city, 49% of homes are non-owner occupied, which means, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, the buyer of your property is a very good chance is not going to live in the area. It's going to be an investor, which means that you need to work with someone who has a bigger influence than just this city. Let me show you how we're going to accomplish that here at Century 21 Masters. And then I lay out the script for you. I won't go through it right now. But when you have those stats and you can articulate it in that way, it's like, man, you're so much more powerful. Well, Robert, I'm interested in selling my house. Do you think we can get 750? Well, it's a hot market. That's it. That's your market stat update. Good. Things are slowing down. Okay. Help me. I know the stats. Be the expert. Okay. Write this down. Be the expert. I'm the expert. I'm the expert at the market. I'm the expert at the market. And it's not hard to be the expert at the market. You can go find stats so quickly, but I'm the market expert. Now, here's the thing. This is where I'm just going to be honest with some of you. Just because you've worked somewhere for 30 years doesn't make you an expert today. Okay? It means you've seen a lot. You know the community really well. But as far as the market goes, you might not be an expert today just because you've been doing it for 30 years. I mean, let's be honest. Home prices have changed a little bit in 30 years. Okay? Mortgages have changed a little bit in 30 years. So you got to be the expert today. That's what I always tell people when someone says, oh, how do I compete against an agent that's been in the market for 30 years? I would say, great. I'm not trying to sell my house 30 years ago. I'm trying to sell my house today. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, who do you think is more qualified to help you today? And you go through the list of why you're more qualified today, right? Be the market expert. So I'll share this with you as kind of a homework assignment if you want to, or just something to think about. Tony Smith said this to me years ago. He said, if the LA Times, and this is now, you got to remember, okay, I started when newspapers were still a thing. Okay, like the actual paper, right? So he told me this, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago or so. And he goes, if the LA Times came to you and they said, hey, look it, we're going to highlight you on the cover of the LA Times. We need a one-page article describing the real estate market in your city. It's going to be on the front page of the LA Times, full article. The downside is we need it by the end of today. Could you write that article with confidence? And I always remembered when he told me that, because it was like, could I? Could I sit down and write an article where I really talked about the market, really gave specifics, great insight, not just vague statements? And I always took that to heart, because that just meant that if I could do that, then I really am the market expert. Can you do that in the cities that you work? Could you write a one-page article on the cover of your newspaper, blog, whatever it is big in your city, describing the real estate market in detail? Or is it just vague terms? Lots of buyers. There's sellers too. And right? Could you be that market expert? That's how you're going to get more listings, being the market expert. All right, good stuff. All right, last couple things I wrote down here. I know we're coming up on 1 o'clock. Take more listings in 2025. This might be the biggest one of all. And this might be from encompassing all these things that we talked about. There's 2 more things I want to mention, but might be encompassing all. You have to really believe that you're the right person to list their house. I mean, you have to really believe that. And some of you need to write that down, because some of you may think that. Well, yeah, of course, Robert. But do you really freaking believe that? Do you really walk into someone's house with that, King Kong type mentality that says, I'm the best person to list your house? Do you really walk in with that? Okay. Now, some of you probably shouldn't beat your chest like I just did, because you might hurt yourself, but that's a different story, right? But do you walk in with that mentality? When you're walking up a driveway, let's say you're walking a house with a driveway, are you walking shoulders up, kind of pep in your steps, smile on your face, saying, let's go? Or you kind of, all right, here we go. You have to psych yourself up. I was, I remember some people on stage going, you got to psych yourself up before a listing presentation. I'm like, dude, if you have to psych yourself up before you go on a listing presentation, we got other problems. I mean, like, I don't know. Like, we live in Southern California. The price points here are great. You get a lot of money for some of these things. You just shouldn't have to psych yourself up. You should be like, I want to freaking win. Let's go. I'm the right person. You have to truly believe that, because sellers can smell fear. Sellers can smell lack of confidence. Sellers can smell a fake. Fake it till you make it. No, they'll smell it. You'll lose. Now, you don't have to be a mega producer to have that confidence. You just have to have the confidence, like, you know what? I'm the right person for the job. I can help you. You don't need that person. I got you. So what I wrote down underneath that point is, what do you have to do to gain that confidence? Is it come from the practice and all the other stuff? Do you have to do affirmations? Do you have to look in a mirror and talk to yourself? Do you have to listen to something to empower yourself? I don't know what the answer is, but you need to really freaking believe when you're walking into a house, take a listing presentation, that you're the right person for the job. Because if you don't have that, just refer the damn thing out. I'm not even trying to be funny or be mean, but you will lose, because every single seller can get another agent at their house in about 15 minutes. Every single one. So if they interview you and they say, you're the only person we're interviewing, and you go in there, you don't have that confidence, promise you, all magically they'll have another interview. But if you go in with that confidence that I'm ready to go, I want to win, you'll get that listing. But I don't know what you have to do to instill that confidence in yourself, but you got to just have it. You just won't win without it. There's just the here's the great thing is that there's a lot of real estate agents not working. There's a lot of real estate agents leaving the business. The downside is that all the agents that are still in the business are you, which means there's no more freebies. There's no more. Well, I'm competing against Robert Hertel. He's some jackass doesn't even live around here. I'm gonna wipe the floor with him. No, you're all now competing against each other. You're all competing against good people, which means you got to be on it. So you got to have that confidence in yourself. Okay, you got to have that confidence in yourself. Last thing, I know we're at 101. Okay, last thing I wrote down here. You want to get more listings in 2025, skills and tips. This is something you've heard 1,000 times. Here comes 1,001. You have to get yourself in more listing opportunities. You have to get yourself in more listing opportunities. Well, what do you mean? Well, you gotta get more appointments, which means you might have to talk to more people. You got to text more people. You got to email more people. You got to do social media or whatever. I don't care what you have to do, but you have to get yourself in more opportunities to take listings, because it's really hard to want to take 10 listings this year and only go on 10 appointments or only set 10 appointments, because you're going to deal with a lot of unmotivated sellers, unrealistic sellers. So if you want to take 10 listings, you might have to set 20 appointments. Some of them will cancel, some of them won't be qualified, some of them will pick other people. But you can't take 10 listings and set 10 appointments. You got to get yourself in more situations. You got to get yourself in front of more people. And I'm not going to go into the specifics again, how you do that, because everyone's going to operate their business differently. All I need you to do is that no matter what mentality, whatever your listing goal is for the year, you have to at least double the amount of appointments set. So if your listing the goal this year is 10, then you have to at minimum set 20 appointments, which is almost 2 a month, which is doable, but you have to create that mentality. You want to go on, you want to take 8 listings this year, you have to set a minimum of 16 appointments. You got to get yourself in more games. You got to get yourself in front of more opportunities. It's hard. Taking listings is freaking hard. Okay. It's really hard, but it's possible. You just have to get yourself in front of more people, give yourself more opportunities. All right. But it's a mentality thing. Well, I got to take, I got to get a listing. So let me go find someone's going to take a listing. No. You want a listing? You got to get 2 appointments. So if you want to take a listing this week, you got to set 2 appointments this week. Or set 2 appointments to take 1 listing next week, because sometimes it takes time to do all this. Questions on anything we went over today? All right, look at a lot of this stuff is not new, but maybe it's something you needed to hear before. Maybe it's a different mentality. But I tell you, man, there's so many freaking opportunities out there. That's the beauty of all this. There's not a lot of agents working. There's still people that want to sell their homes. I get it. Some of you live in some of these areas in LA. That's a mess right now. Okay. And for those of you that live in those areas, you might have to expand out a little bit. Okay. It sucks. Again, I'm going through all of this. So, okay. You might have to expand out a little bit, but there's still a lot of people that want to sell their homes this year. But don't wait for the interest rates to go down. Don't wait for economy. Don't wait for this. There's people that want to sell their homes today. Go find them, have that confidence, and go in there and take that listing. This year is a tremendous opportunity for a lot of people if you just stay committed, stay dedicated, and stay focused. I'm telling y'all, some of you are just going to have an unbelievable freaking year. Let us know how we can help. Reach out to me, reach out to Neil, reach out to Eddie, Jackie, Terry, whoever. We can help, but we're in this together. So let's go out there. Let's make this the best listing year you've ever had. All right, everybody. That's all I got. I appreciate you.